Hi, welcome back to Home Time. Well, the question is, what gives a house curb appeal? We're going to explore that today on Home Time.
Yep, we've been tracking the street view elements on this new home under construction here. That'll include roofing, natural stone, stamped concrete, and garage doors.
So by the end of the show, we should have a pretty good idea of what this home's curb appeal is all about.
Yep, I hope you can stick around. The front porch, steps, and sidewalk have to be poured before starting the stone, so that's being done today. The guys have already prepped the forms, gravel, and rebar for a stamped concrete treatment, which should be very interesting because they're adding the color right on site.
We're basically forming up our porch here in anticipation that the stone thickness, mortar, and elevations are all at one particular height for them.
Well, the way they have these all set up, the concrete is going to come right over the rigid foam insulation. So when they take off the forms, it's going to create just the right spot for the stone veneer that's going to be going on later.
Basically, the insulation is serving as a void for the stone crew that's going to be coming in behind us. We'll have a nice overhang about 2.5 inches around the perimeter of the step and the porch. They'll come in behind us and insert their stone underneath that 2-inch overhang.
Well, here's the color and texture that they are going for. The color is a blend of 4 different pigments that they put in a dissolving bag, and then they put it in this bag for shipping. So when the concrete truck arrives, they just take out the dissolving bag.
Then we'll throw those in and we'll get it mixed up.
Toss it into the concrete truck. As it mixes, it works its way into the mix, and you get the color that you want. So, Brian.
Yes.
I have a question. I know you're really busy, but for people who may not be familiar with stamped concrete, do you want to kind of go through what happens when you do it?
Oh yeah. Basically, the concrete will show up. We will be adding the color to the truck. It will be mixing for anywhere between 8 to 10 minutes. And then we'll start pouring out the concrete from the far end all the way to this end. The process is the same as traditional gray concrete. We'll lay it down, we'll smooth it out, make sure it has a nice crisp look to it.
It's a little bit muddy out here today, but the guys are glad that the truck is able to back right up to the porch. It's a lot easier than carrying all the concrete by buggy. I know with the aggregate that you're working with, that can be varied. So what do you use for this treatment?
This particular application, we have a 6.5 bag stampable concrete mix. Basically, they eliminate a lot of the aggregate rock and put in more sand, so you get kind of a more fine finish and a more crisp look with your stamp when you stamp it.
It's always a good idea to agitate the concrete a little bit to make sure there are no voids or air bubbles, and make sure that the concrete fills every nook and cranny.
Going good, going good.
How do you finish the concrete before you spread the release agent and then apply the stamp?
Well, we'll be finishing the concrete, trowel finishing it to take out any imperfections, any voids, making sure that the concrete is totally level so the impression of the stamp looks uniform as the stamp impression is being installed.
People talk about concrete curing rather than drying. That's because it's a chemical process, is what makes it hard. Sometimes it can take days, even weeks for it to fully cure, but it can get pretty hard to work with pretty quickly, so these guys work as fast as they can.
Here we have a decorative edger from 7 inches from our outside form in. We're going to have a nice 7-inch border going around the perimeter of the porch. The outside perimeter of the border is going to be stamped with Roman slate, and on the inside of the porch is going to be Astor slate. So you have 2 different stamps going on, but there's a visual there that kind of complements each other when it comes to the 2 different stamps in the area that you're stamping. Basically, the border is there to just kind of dress the inside of the work up a little bit.
And then this is kind of part 1. You're going to do the porch, and then the walk and the driveway you're going to come back for, right?
That is correct. You know, if you can control a smaller portion of concrete when you're stamping it, you have a better end result. After we have it installed and have it fine-tuned in and finished, then we will start placing our secondary color that will be broadcasting across the top of the concrete that we laid.
Okay.
And it also provides us a bond breaker between the concrete and the stamp, so the concrete doesn't stick to the stamp.
How do you know when it's actually ready to start stamping?
It's kind of an instinct thing. Sometimes in some situations we can stick our finger into the concrete to kind of see where it's at, and then we kind of know when to start, knowing where we're going to finish at from an impression standpoint. You want to make sure that you have the consistent stamp throughout the concrete install, so you have the same impression from when you start to when you finish. At that point, we will start installing our Asher slate pattern on the top platform of the step. So we'll be using probably 3 to 4 stamps that kind of interlock with each other. They have different stones on each stamp, and as you stamp the concrete, you want to turn the stamp to have a different layment of the stone. The stamp itself varies between a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch, and you want to make sure you get that full depth of the stamp impressed into the concrete.
So it needs to be soft enough to take the deepest impression.
Exactly, soft enough to take the deepest impression, but at the same time too, it has to be soft enough where we're still able to run the consistent stamp design through the duration of the pour.
Yet firm enough where you're not going to sink into it.
That is correct. All 3 pieces of concrete together, so visually you can kind of see the concept that we're trying to portray.
Okay, and then you'll be back to do the walk.
That's correct. We'll be back to do the walk. We have our step and porch. That height is established. Our driveway height is established. Both of them have proper drainage. Now we have the sidewalk in the middle where we can meet the two together.
Well, the sod is done, and so Brian is back with the sealer, and the driveway and the sidewalk here look really good.
Thank you.
What exactly are you using for the sealer?
We're using an acrylic sealer. It's 100% soluble. It kind of stands up against our Minnesota winters when it comes to the salt and sand.
This is 2 coats, right?
That's correct. We power wash the over broadcast of the secondary color,
Okay.
and then we applied a curing compound to the concrete for curing purposes. The second application is for the sheen, kind of interlock the colors with each other.
And what about maintenance?
I would say applications with just foot traffic, like the sidewalk and front porch. I would probably recommend sealing it probably every 2 years.
Okay.
As for the driveway, just the wear and tear the surface takes, I would say probably every year.
Well, I have to tell you, it turned out absolutely gorgeous. Really, really nice work.
Thank you.
Thanks for helping us out.
Thank you.
There's still some work to do inside, but as far as the exterior goes, this home is pretty much done, including the materials that we wanted to show you. The slate-style roof, the sandstone veneer, the garage doors with the arched trim, and the stamped concrete that we just saw Brian sealing up. Now what you see from the street is a great example of what people mean when they talk about curb appeal. I hope you enjoyed seeing it all come together. For Dean and the guys, I'm Miriam Johnson. Thanks for watching.